I think castles are amazing because they've survived for hundreds of years, and often, as in this case, when their original purpose disappeared only a short time after being constructed. It was only 60 years for this castle. This castle, or blockhouse, played a role in England's defence strategy, protecting an important harbour from raids by pirates and other nations. This is Polruan Castle in Polruan, Cornwall, England. This video will provide a brief history, context and visiting tips, and also a little bit about the area. What was so important that it needed to be defended by at first 2 blockhouses or castles and then a new castle? Please stay to the end for all the details. I aim to visit and make short videos on many castles across the country in addition to my regular ones, so please like, subscribe and click the alerts bell for future releases. Thank you for watching Eclectic Experience, change seen through images. Polruan Castle is located here in Polruan, Cornwall, on the other side of the River Fowey, written F-O-W-E-Y, to Fowey itself, and about 16 miles from Bodmin. On this map from Historic England, the red shaded area is the castle, which is a Grade 2 star listed building and, more significantly, a scheduled ancient monument. On this map we can also see the Fowey Blockhouse, also known as Castle Remains at Harbour Mouth, and closer to the river mouth, St Catherine's Castle, which I will do a separate video on. For context, let's look at monarchs. This chart goes from the present King, Charles III, all the way back to 1066 and William I, William the Conqueror. This castle, or blockhouse, was built in response to a French raid in 1457, probably in the reign of Edward IV, between 1461 and 1483. St Catherine's Castle, just down the river, was built as part of Henry VIII's defence strategy after falling out with the Pope and divorcing Catherine of Aragon. And this superseded the blockhouses until the English Civil War, when it was fortified again in the reign of King Charles I, who was beheaded. This castle's purpose was to protect the harbour and that of Fowey across the water, and it did this by use of a chain strung between the blockhouses, one on the Fowey side and this one. According to Historic England, chain towers are rare, with only 5 remaining, of which this one is the most complete and hardly altered. There was a similar system used at Dartmouth Castle, which I have prepared a video on where I explain this in more detail, link at the end. It is quite surprising that it was only in use for 60 years, became obsolete 500 years ago, but is still here now in the 2020s, albeit as a ruin. Well, part of the reason was the castle was refortified during the English Civil War, when the Royalists seized the castle from the Parliamentarians to give them control over the shipping. It then, after the Civil War, slowly decayed. But interestingly, not as much as the blockhouse on the Fowey side. The Polruan blockhouse has been looked after and repaired, most recently in the 1980s, as we can see from the 1987 date on this sign. So what does remain today? It is a good ruin. This is the entrance. And this is what greets you when you're inside. This is a 360-degree shot around the walls. An interesting array of openings, staircases, gun holes and fireplaces. And then back to the opening we came through. Then, if we take a different shot and look down, we can see the exit out to the riverside, which is in effect a continuation of the path. There are some steps that would have appeared to have gone to the first floor, which you can carefully go up and get a different perspective on the upper levels. I found the gun holes very interesting, as well as a better view of the other staircase that appeared to start on the first floor. If we exit the castle at the other end, as if following the path, there are some very steep steps that take us down to the rocks where we can get a really good view of the other blockhouse on the Fowey side. Ironically, the one on the Fowey side was more substantial, so it's quite possible that was where the winding mechanism for the chain was located. Also, if we look more towards the river mouth, we can see the replacement, St Catherine's Castle. Some history. So why did Polruan and Fowey need defending? Well, to start with, it's an important natural harbour. This port was a shipbuilding and repair centre from very early times, and even still has a yard that is in business today. Right up to and including during World War II, it was even repairing torpedo boats. Polruan ships were also used by English monarchs, before there was a Royal Navy, to defend and attack whoever the enemy was at the time. They had the title privateers, which in essence was legalised piracy, as they went out and attacked and stole from the enemy, another reason they needed protecting. Visiting tips. If going to Polruan, the best way is by road, and there are car parks, one on the outskirts of the town and one near the bay next to the lifeguard station, where incidentally you can see the remains of St Saviour's Chapel, ruins which were built before the Norman conquest in the 8th or 9th century. If visiting Fowey and St Catherine's Castle, there is a regular river ferry shuttle for foot passengers. This is it coming into Polruan harbour. Polruan itself is very steep. This is the main road going down to the harbour. The castle itself is pretty easy to find. It is administered by the Polruan Town Trust, who do a really good job with signage and conservation. Also, the maps and notice boards are really helpful. This is a small ruined castle that is a well-preserved ruin in a great setting in a picturesque harbour, and well worth a visit if in the area. This is the link to my Dartmouth Castle video, where I explain in a bit more detail about how the chain across the river worked as a defence measure. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, click alerts for future releases and subscribe. Brought to you by Eclectic Experience, change seen through images.